Chapter 4 Northern Sumatra. Part 2 The Gayo and Alas. Society. Government. The Gayo division of the people is still rooted in genealogical rule and has only gone over to territorial rule where compulsion has been used by the Dutch. The population is divided into patrilinearships, pla, suku or kuru, inhabiting either a village or a portion of a village. In Alas, the ship is called Mergo, Batak Merga or Marga, and the division of it is called Suku or Bla. The small unit of government is a subdivision of a ship under its own family head, Rojo or Penghulu. The subjects of a ship consider each other blood brothers and call one another Sara Rojo, one Rojo, or Sara Ino, one mother. This last appellation natural is contrary to fact in an ethnic society. The subjects of a Rojo may, at any time period, and a part of them live under a new ruler. The members of the two groups after the separation no longer consider one another blood brothers and have no longer the old rights and duties towards one another. Still the common descendants call each other wali, indicating not descended, and are called and allowed to marry until both sides with appropriate ceremonies remove this last obstacle. When a ship expands, it first forms separate hamlets and then villages, but the authority of the Rojo is retained as long as possible. The patriarchal chief has his deputies model, who will set a somewhat limited power in the various dwelling places of the Sandoro subjects, but the Rojo himself is called upon important matters. The position of Rojo is hereditary in the family. According to the other, he is usually followed by his son, not necessarily the eldest, but the one who is considered as mature, i.e. distinguished by lucky marks. The choice is made by the shipmates, the Sandoros, aided by a sea guru who is summoned. As among the Bataks, the rule of ultimogeniture is followed both in inheritance and succession to office, and the choice first falls on the youngest son, and then on the eldest. If the youngest son is still immature, a guardian is appointed. Just before the burial of the deceased Rojo, his name and rank are assumed by his chosen successor, who is carried with the corpse of the same litter to the burial place and then back to the house. After 44 days, the Sandogos have a gathering and the chosen man is installed in his position. The Rojo, like the Batak Raja, is primus inter pares among his people. The Gayo form of his life is too simple to allow of much pomp. Usually the chiefs go about clothed as other men and without any special following. They themselves walk in the fields. The roof of a Rojo's house is made of whole timber is especially ornamented. The Rojo also is entitled to a special coffin, while common people simply are wrapped in clothes. Finally, the Rojo, the type of the yearly feast, is bathed and anointed in the presence of the multitude. There follows a general rendering of homage in which the women throw rice at the ruler in order to cast off disease from the people. The authorities stand by the side of the Rojo to aid him in the governing. In governing, the Tuo or Petuo, the elder or adjutant of the Rojo, is usually a self-aged and noted for his knowledge of the Adat, and furthermore there is an Imam, the religious head and guardian of the Hukum, the religious law. The latter has charge of religious feasts, the performing of marriages, and the burial of the dead. The most important source of income of the Rojo is the reef from fines called sala, the same as the misdemeanors for which they are imposed, inflicted for violation of the Adat. The abnormal forms of marriage, as by adoption, are sala. Adoption, marriage, adoption, and adoption marriage, adoption and the freeing of slaves as awareness and income to the Gojo. The Gojo gets a certain sum for every marriage and in some districts for every burial. The Gojo likewise receives a share of every buffalo slaughtered at the feast. The Gojo, Imam, Turo, and Sandoros form together the four natural classes which compose every Gayo society. The only territorial chiefs and the Kejurans, who were set up by Aceh about 2 centuries ago, when she controlled Gayo. According to tradition, there were originally 4 Kejurans in order to conform to the Acehese concept of the sanctity of the number 4. At this time, Gayo was divided into 3 provinces, Laut Tawak, the Dorot, and Gayo Luas. 2 Kejurans were chosen from Laut Tawak in order to make up the total 4. The rulers of these districts received from the Sultan of Aceh certain insignia of house, of office, and their titles. When the sultans of Aceh had wished to create territorial chiefs who could be responsible for their lands to outside powers, they fell short of accomplishing their purpose. In the course of time, the Kejurans become less and less important, for they remain entirely outside the general scope of Gayo communal life. Since, however, the Gayo people themselves wish the Kejurans to have some functions, they become the arbitrators of quarrels between the Gojos or between the subjects of different Gojos. When new settlements were founded, or when colonialists or when colonists came from a different territory, the consent of the local Kejurun have first to be asked. The blessing and consent of the Kejurun had also to be obtained at the installation of a new Gojo, whether his predecessor was dead, deposed, or chosen to head a new ship. Every Kejurun filled also the office of the Gojo in his own ship, and the succession of the position of Kejurun was made on the same plane as that to Gojo. When Gayo was annexed by the Dutch in 1904, the Kejurans were raised again to importance as territorial chiefs with the Gojos subordinate to them. Snook Hogan has made a comparison to the Acehese and the Gayo form of government due to intimate knowledge which this writer gained of both regions and the excellence of his exposition. The comparison deserves translation in full. In Aceh, the ranks are as follows. The Kecil is the kampung chief. Under him are many Orang Tuha underlings, from whose number some are chosen as waki, who function like the Gayo Tuo. The Acehese Tengku, under another name, performs the same office as the Imam of the Gayo. Finally, there come the usual members of the kampung, whom the Kecil call his children anak. The Acehese Kecil rules over a territory, the kampung. All the people who enter the territory and occupy land before the children of the Kecil, and when they leave and take up land elsewhere, his rule is broken. In Gayo, a Gojo rules over so-called brothers, all of whom are supposed to be of the same blood, and they cannot break this allegiance unless they enter another ship. This can only be done by adoption or by marrying in the ambil or adoption marriage, both of which methods are seldom practiced. In Gayo, then it is the genealogical factor which counts, while in Aceh the territorial factor comes to the fore, and the eldership unity remains, but in weakened form in the kawams. There is a great deal more solidarity between the Sandoros in Gayo than between the people of a town in Aceh, the latter only being fellow citizens who live together but are not responsible for each other's conduct or debts. The Gayo Sandoros live as brothers and are responsible for one another in case of blood revenge and in case of any other debt or fine. Refusal to pay the debt of a fellow Sandoro may lead to war, contrary to primitive clan custom, but similar to Minangkabau adat. The Gayo have means of getting rid of an and undesirable brother. His nearer blood relatives, who are the ones the most oppressed, petitioned the Rojo before the assembled ship council to expel Menjeran from Chere to Pat. The undesirable member. The cruisers have to pay the Rojo for the service. The expelled person can offer nothing better than to be taken into another ship, for which service he has to give the new Rojo a money present for the privilege of being accepted, besides furnishing his new shipmates fish. An entire family can ever join a new ship if it is dissatisfied with its former Rojo. Such new members are forbidden marriage with women of the new ship in the same manner as if they were born in it, while they may marry women if they form in of their former ship. But a man seldom or never makes use of this privilege when the memory of the broken bond still exists. A person left over not taken into a new ship lives on as a wanderer in the fields or in such towns where opium smoking and rooster fighting are the order of the day, or as fields to Aceh. Yachin is kecil, although he is called the father of his Gampong, and as such retains much patriarchal influence, is of far less importance than the Gayo Gojo, who is really the head of a blood community. The kecil is limited in power by the Imam. Without the consent of the superior, he is unable to handle important matters in his Gampong. The Rojo, on the other hand, is nearly independent and need only call upon the other Rojos when they affair involves their subjects. He has almost no one superior to him in power, not alone the regulating of a common interest and the settlement of all differences, but also the judgment of all crimes, even capital, fall to the Rojo and all without direction from above. Yet the personal power of the Rojo is small, in many cases less than that of the Kecil. The Kecil, although his power is limited, can force the inhabitants of his village to do much which is by no means agreeable to them. But the Rojo can only act when he is certain that the foremost Sandogos will not oppose him. A decision against their will simply will not be enforced. A command also that does not correspond with the noun adat will not be carried out. If the Rojo attempts to cross the will of the majority, the Rojo is chosen. The Rojo thus merely is patriarch president of a little republic whose members are jealous of their freedom, and his words are listened to only when they conform to the adat. As among the Bataks, only married men have voice in the affairs of the ship, and they alone can act as witnesses and can be held responsible for debts. In other words, a man is not considered adult until married. As everywhere in Indonesia, the adat, which is merely an Arabian word for customary law, is supposed to remain unchanged from generation to generation, since it is supervised by the ancestors. The primitive conceived the dead as jealous of the living and especially antagonistic to novation. A good Rojo, therefore, is a Rojo who is conservative and walks in the path of his forefathers. And yet, the adat does change. Here, as elsewhere among primitive or isolated people, and the rate of change is directly dependent on the mode of contact the people enjoy with the outside world. Gayo is more isolated than Aceh, but less isolated than Batak land. Hence, the governmental system had progressed to a point between those of these two countries before the Dutch took the rule. Wars never were fought between two kejuruns after these officials did not control territorial units. Commonly, wars were waged between two Rojos of the same district. At the beginning of a war, both sides fortified their towns with earth walls, pointed stakes, and bamboo slivers stuck into the ground as traps. This was this was all done, however, without the kampongs really being in any danger, for it was against the order to destroy dwelling places, and the actual fighting took place outside the towns. The fight lasted until the one side of the other was compelled to flee and take refuge in its kampong. Then peace was negotiated by a neutral party. During the war, the ordinary rules of the adat in Hukum were not obeyed. The Rojo chose another leader called Panglimo to rule in his place. The Panglimo was supposed to be especially fitted for leadership in war. The Panglimo in turn picked out an official called Pemeter to act in place of the two. The Imam either did not take part, or at least was not supposed to take part in a war between two Mohammedan parties. His place was taken by the Guru Perang, a person skilled in reading omens and determining lucky and unlucky periods and days. If there were none in the district, a man was called in from outside criminal law. The native concept that an infringement of the adat, in order to be punishable, must be attested by a material token, also holds among the Gayo. Without a bendo no salah, without a token no wrong. A headcloth from a man committing adultery in the hand of the wife's husband is a convincing piece of testimony. The attesting of innocence without such a bendo is said as worthless. Both the adat and the hukum are involved for the punishment of a murder. Usually the guilt of a murder is apparent, and no bendo or visible token of the murder is necessary for the purpose of declaring him guilty. If the murderer is unable to justify his deed, he is executed. Capital punishment takes the form either of striking or drowning. In Allah's beheading also is customary. A person is drowned by having his head held under the water with a forked stick. This form of punishment, however, usually is reserved for thieves, while murderers are strangled. But guilt is declared on a man who murders one of his own shipmates, as well as on a man who murders an outsider. In the latter case, the sandoros of the afflicted ship come to the murderous ship as if they were about to start work, but the rojo of the guild ship is empowered to decide the matter according to the laws of God and men who come and that. The rojo of the townships hold council together and satisfaction is given. Neither blood atonement nor diet where guilt is given when a person is killed in war, or when a wronged individual personally has killed a trapped thief or has avenged unchastity. In such cases, however, the theory of the bendo must be applied, and part of the stolen goods must be found on the person of the thief, of the wife, accomplice of the adulterous man must given on a wall. Later, the adulterous wife usually is strangled. A guilty person, even though caught flagrante delicto, may no longer be killed by the wrong party if he has the good luck to reach the boundaries of his own kampong. The thief escapes by flight, is punished by a fine and devoted of the stolen article. As tangible proof of the theft, not only is the stolen article necessary, but the thief must also have received a wound in the course of his flight. Habitual thieves are drowned. All unchastity, whether performed with an unmarried girl, with the wife of another, or with a woman whom the culprit is unable to marry, is considered as not having had occurred where no token can be produced. If such a token is produced, the matter is settled with a fine, and the male relative, father, brother, or husband, is compensated. This is contrary to a Chinese law, which considers unchastity as a crime against the state. In Gayo, a woman is considered the property of her father or husband, and hence the male owner is to be compensated for loss. Naturally, the Chinese law is but a development of the Gayo manner of thinking. With more civilized codes, unchastity, punished at all, becomes again a civil rather than a criminal matter. Pregnancy is the best of bendo, and one does what can to adjust matters. If the affair has not been settled by killing, the woman is given to the man as wife. If this is not possible because the woman is already married or because the marriage would be contrary to the Gayo laws of exogamy, both parties should be killed. Usually, however, the matter is adjusted by wages paid by the man or by the relatives of the woman, and the fruit of the womb is destroyed. The woman then is forced into a marriage with a man of low rank. Of low rank. It must be noted that all officials, including the Rojo, Tugo, and Imam, are not liable to fine. If an official commits a crime, he can be deposed. A woman also, as among the Bataks, is considered as property and hence can own no property and pay no fines. The Gayo, wishing to extol the position of woman, say that in this respect she is like a Rojo, for she need pay no fines. All the prescribed besides the window or tangible evidence, still other means by which the truth may be arrived at the oaths and the odial accusations of which there are no window, but which rest on presumptive evidence. No one names the kozok of doubtful accusations. If the evidence submitted is not sufficient even to be presumptive, the accuser is fined for arousing false suspicion. People who live in suspicion of theft, etc., may clear themselves by oath. The simplest oath is sworn on the Quran or on the earth. May the earth not receive my body if I have sworn falsely. Perjury is supposed to be severely punished in the next world, but since Allah only punishes in the next life, and this lies a long way in the future, and since His mercy is infinite, and He may pardon the offense of perjury, most worth is laid on oath whose work perjury will bring retribution in the present life. Such an oath is made on some sacred object, stone, tree, etc., which acts as security for the truth of the assertion. The object then is laid on some holy spot as a grave. In case of perjury, one believes that material misfortune, such as heavy pecuniary loss, sickness, or death, will soon befall the culprit. This misfortune does not come from Allah the Merciful, but from the magic of the sacred object. The oldest made use of are common in Indonesia. A reputed person is made to put his head in burning oil. In case of dispute over property, both parties duck under water, and the one who remains under the longest is declared winner. Marriage. The Gayo family is patriarchal in form, and every family is supposed to have one of four lines of descent. The fictitious basis of safe descent is readily seen when one appropriates the amount of foreign blood which has been brought in either by outright adoption into the ships or by the angkat family or by the angkat marriage. This is the ambil anak marriage of the Bataks and South Sumatra, when a man is taken into the family of his wife. Batakness and Aceh only are adopted into a family where it is apparent that they can be retrusted, after the needed publicity has been given by means of a sacrificial meal, at which, according to the material circumstances at the adoption of the adopting father, a buffalo or goat is sacrificed, and after payment of the adoption fee to the Gojo, the new member is taken as a sandoro for this time and belongs to the sheep. When a slave is adopted, it is necessary to give a sacrificial meal and thus get publicity, so that the man and his descendants no longer will be treated as slaves. The usual form of adoption is the angkat marriage, in which the daughter does not leave her paternal house, but marries a stranger. No bride price is paid, and the man becomes a sandor of the brothers and tribal relatives of his wife. In order to satisfy the Mohammedan law, the man gives $1 to his wife as marriage present. as in other forms of adoption, in this case also adopting man, which is a field worker and a procurer of children. He also wishes to return his daughter in his home rather than sell her out. This is especially the case where the family has no sons. No demands are made regarding the ancestry or position of a son-in-law acquired by this form of annexation, yet men who actually were slaves are not very desirable, as they can be recognized by the fact that both earlobes are brought to. It is usually in it usually is Achenis and other strangers, such as Malays and Kurintiers, seldom Klings or Arabs, who are thus taken into their family. Sometimes, but seldom, Chinese are converted to Islam and married in. Usually, when a Gayo man marries in the Angkap honor, it is but for a limited period of time. He cannot as yet pay the bride price, but he does not wish to postpone marriage. Such a man gives the best of his working ability to the family of his bride so that he can bring her to his own home as soon as possible. This kind of angkap marriage is called angkap janji. It is to the advantage of the father-in-law to keep his son-in-law as long as possible, and often he will only give consent to the marriage when the latter has sworn not to pay the bride price for a fixed period of time. Once a Gayoman pays the bride price, he is entitled to bring his wife and his children to his own ship. This payment may be made after the death of the man by adnets. If the woman dies before the entire bride price is paid, the remainder of the debt is wiped out. Sometimes a blood relative is given the man as a substitute. While a Gayo woman theoretically owns no goods and not only manages the positions of her husband and children, yet a woman married by the Angak method is an exception to this rule. The husband only possesses goods while he remains a member of the family. Frequently, an Chinese adventurer marries into a Gayo family and then runs away, leaving his goods and children behind. The family considers such an affair an asset rather than a boss. The customary form of marriage in Gayo is the purchase marriage. Here the true form of purchase marriage is employed, and the woman in consideration of the bride price is purchased out of the ship to which he belongs. Due to the Gayo respect for woman, however, one does not say that the man buys a wife, but that he fetches a wife. In spite of this euphemism, the bride price is high, and other expensive presents have to be given as well. So it happens not infrequently that one finds elderly unmarried men and women in Gayo. As a rule, with the exception of the ship restrictions, the Islam marriage restrictions are adhered to. Yet it is not forbidden, although it is not customary, for two brothers to marry two sisters for the same father. As is usual with tribes having ships, the maternal uncle is distinguished in relationship nomenclature from the father and father's brother, and the children of brother and sister from children of the two brothers or two sisters. No investigation has been made, however, on the question of cousin marriage, either in Gayo and Alas. It is safe to assume that this form of marriage occurs in both lands in one variety or another. A man usually marries a woman who lives in his neighborhood. The woman's family does not like to lose sight of her, and the man wishes to know something about the woman he is marrying. First marriages, which are the only ones of importance, are arranged by the families on both sides. The engagement lasts from 1 to 3 years due to necessity of the man acquiring the bride price, the woman the dowry, such as cooking apparatus, decorations, clothing, mats, and even cattle, which he brings into the marriage. In wealthy families, the dowry sometimes is worth many times the bride price. The wedding ceremony consists in part of the bride and groom placing siri in each other's mouths and in plunging their hands into water. After the marriage, the husband must remain in the house of his father-in-law from 4 to 7 days. During the period of his stay, he is subjected to have by the youngest, the bride's family. The hazing is called bersendo, meaning joking or play. It is very unpleasant for the groom, who in turn is covered with soot and chalk, has water poured over him, and is made to sing and dance. If he performs badly, he is fined. In the afternoons, the groom bathes in the river. At these times, the youngest decorate him with emblems of his former occupation. If he was a tobacco planter, with all the implements used in planting tobacco, if a hunter, with weapons of the chase and a dark brown to his leg. Besides the angak marriage and the purchase marriage, the Gayo have marriage by elopement and marriage by adoption. The Gayo, however, do not practice marriage by elopement in order to lessen the cost of the marriage, although this form of wedding costs much less for both families, but in order to surmount obstacles set by the parents. If the two young people wish to marry despite the wishes of the parents, the girl goes to the rojo of the man's ship and remains in his house. She bears with her certain tokens belonging to the man, at his head clothes and serious sack. The girl is entrusted to the guardianship of the rojo. The relatives of the young woman sent 3 times for her in a formal manner, and each time they are informed that she has come to live with her two companions. After this message has arrived at last time, the male relatives of the girl pretend to be in the greatest rage, arm themselves, and go to the house of the rojo, where they once more demand the return of the relatives. The man now pays a certain sum of money and becomes engaged to the girl. The sum is only about the cut of the regular marriage price. A marriage ceremony is soon performed, where the relatives of the girl pretend that they are still angry and have nothing to do with the wedding. A distant relative acts as a guardian, wali, and gives the girl away at the altar. There are no festivities, and again the costs are lessened. The pair remain a year with the relatives of the woman since such a small bride price has been paid, and then, especially if a child is born, there is a reconciliation. Actual blessing is handled in a far less lenient fashion. In some districts, marriage is never allowed after adoption. Then, there the abductor is punished either with death or a heavy fine, and the girl handed back to the parents. Where this rule is followed, abductions are rare. In Gayo laws, the pair is allowed to marry, although the affair is a very severe breach of the adat. Polygyny, although everywhere allowed, is seldom practiced. The ordinary man, once married, remains faithful to his one wife until his or her death. The bride price is too high to permit the men of ordinary means to think of either divorce or polygyny. Very prominent and wealthy men, however, take a second wife. If the first wife has children, the man pays her an indemnity. Both women live in the same house. When the husband dies, the wife, especially if there are children, marries a brother or nephew of the deceased. In this case, no bride price is paid to the parents of the woman. Even the woman does not marry another man of the same ship as her husband, as long as the family of the deceased husband takes care of her. Her parents have no right to bring her back home or give her away in marriage. If the woman returns to her home and is given out in marriage a second time, the bride price is but half of what it was the first time. Children do not follow their mother in the second marriage, but remain with the father's family. No evidence of joking relationships among the Gayo are mentioned. Parents-in-law and children-in-law do not avoid one another. They do, however, avoid mentioning each other's names. The avoidance of names in general is very strict in Gayo. A husband and wife avoid each other's name entirely, and after the first child is born, they lose their names due to the practice of tetronymy. Before closing our discussion of Gayo marriage, a word of explanation is necessary concerning the frequent occurrence of the matriarchal marriage among these people. The usual explanation given is that it is a survival of the previous patriarchy. However, according to the theory held in this book, the bilateral family was the oldest form in Sumatra, giving place either to the patrilineal or in Minangkabau to the matrilineal. Marriage then originally was an exchange between two families, and with the advent of the medianship between two ships. With the breakdown of the exchange system, the bride price comes in as compensation, as among the Bataks. People with matrilineal descent, as the Minangkabau, or matrilocal residents, as in Aceh, need no bride price because the family of the girl loses nothing by her marriage, as has been shown among the Bataks, and as is also true for the Gayo. When the marriage price becomes too high, marriages tend to become matrilocal. Among the Gayo, abduction is criminal because it provides neither for the payment of a bride price nor its compensation. Matrilocal residence it is therefore a crime against property. Elopement is compensated for by a modified bride price and a modified matrilocal residence, even with actual bride purchase. It is symbolically felt that money cannot entirely compensate the ship of the bride price for its loss, and hence the seven matrilocal residence and hence the housing of the groom. Totemism. Since both the Bataks and the Aceh had totemism, it is probable that certain, if not all, of the Gayo and Alas ships likewise were totemistic. Snook Hogonje merely states on this point that among the Gayo as in Java, there are certain families to whom certain animals are taboo as food. This is attributed to the views or code of the founder of the family in consequence of an incident which is handed down in legend. Sickness of death would follow the infringement of the taboo. Puberty ceremonies. In Gayo and Alas as in Aceh, the name giving and the hair cutting of the child take place on the seventh day after his birth. The child is bathed in a nearby river on this occasion. At the time of the haircut, a lock is allowed to remain on the crown of both boys and girls. In sickness or other misfortune, this lock is cut off in the hope that the bad luck will be removed. After circumcision, the boy's hair is allowed to grow again. The girl allows her hair to grow at the age of 6. The girl has the girl has her earlobes pierced without ceremony. The ears then are artificially lengthened. In Gayo, as already mentioned, a number of boys are circumcised together sometime before their 6th year. The festivities which occur at this time are in the nature of wedding festivities, and the youths are dressed as grooms. Girls are incensed in Gayo where they are a few months old. This is done in Alas at about the age of 5. Boys and girls in Gayo have their teeth filled with permanently blackened by a male operator at about the age of 15. The teeth of both jaws are filled. In Alas, the operation takes place at about the age of 8 for both sexes. Inheritance. Due to the peculiar marriage regulations of Gayo, it would be impossible for the people to follow Mohammedan inheritance laws. As a matter of fact, the population is quite ignorant as to what the regulations of Islam are regarding this matter. The native rules of inheritance are not laid down in an exacting manner, but there are general principles consistent with a patriarchal society. While women in general cannot possess property, in practice they possess as consorts of their husbands. As a widow, a mother possesses with her children, and thus she often manages the family property. Even the daughter possesses goods when, through an uncapped marriage, she is made a more or less permanent member of the family. The father is sure upon the marriage of his son gives him an outfit consisting of part of a rich rice field, one or more buffaloes, and a portion of the communal house. While all the eldest sons usually receive an equal share, the youngest receives the most, sometimes twice as much as any of the others. The youngest son is called Bengsu, and has the duty of taking care of the elder brothers and seeing that they are properly buried. When the father dies, the property is not divided further but goes as a whole to the succeeding family head. The making of wills is quite unknown. If a man leaves only girls at the time of his death, and none of these have performed an uncapped marriage, then the youngest of the elder brothers of the family of the father becomes family head and takes care of the family. If one of the brothers, however, has performed an uncapped marriage, her husband receives the estate and becomes head of the family. When a man has sons and daughters, and the daughters marry in the uncapped fashion, it is usual for the father to give portions of his estate to the daughters at the time of their marriages, concealing the matter, however, for his sons. At the death of the father, the residue of the estate goes to his youngest son. Most Gayo men leave only enough property at their deaths to pay the cost of the funeral, and there is little left over to give the family head. The privileges and duties of the younger son can be taken from him if he is not deserving of them.